Oh no, not another one of these maps again. We have a chance to be born again. What region are you choosing? The theme here is that no matter what region, there is a small chance you might be Indian. Okay, to be fair, India is the most populated country on Earth, so I kind of get that. If you were born again, you have a really high chance of just either being Indian or Chinese. The first one I can rule out immediately is J. Bro, I'm not a penguin. I can't pop up in Antarctica. I can also safely say hell no to H. I'm gonna go ahead and pass on I as well, although it does seem to be fun to be Brazilian and just have all these like Brazilian babes in my favela. That Brazilian funk music must be going so hard here. It's funny we're eliminating all of the southern hemisphere first. Let's just go ahead and say no to G as well. Although, you know, like I guess Buenos Aires would be nice. Although don't I need a wheelbarrow just to carry around my money for a loaf of bread? Not gonna lie, F looks pretty good to me. Now there's a small chance you could be North Korean, but you also might be Japanese, you might be Australian. I'm assuming New Zealand is somewhere out over there. Thailand seems pretty nice. The Philippines seems pretty nice. You might be maybe a rich Chinese person. You could be born in Hong Kong or Taiwan. F is okay, not gonna lie. K, not so much. This seems horrible. E as well. Like, these are the parts of China you don't really want to be in. With D, the best thing you can hope for is literally just like the Nordic countries, but you have a very high chance you could pop up in a literal war zone in Ukraine or Pakistan or Central Asia. I'm good with D. Tempting, but not enough for me. My goodness, I just realized I'm running out of letters. This does not look that fun. A would suck because I might pop up in like war-torn Yemen or Sudan, and I have all of Africa to worry about, and the best thing I can root for is maybe being born in Miami, that or my home city of Los Angeles, but there's lots of possibility to be somewhere in Mexico or Colombia or Venezuela. That'd be a tough one. Cuba. I think I might have to roll out A too, bro. We're screwed. At least with B, there's a huge chunk of India, but you could be born in Qatar or the UAE. Some parts of North Africa that I wouldn't want to be born, especially in those parts, because this is mostly the Sahara Desert, but you could be born. There's a high chance you're in the US. C only sucks because you have to worry about Syria, Iraq, and Iran, but I mean, you have a high chance of Europe and or Canada. What am I gonna pick? I actually don't even know. I just for sure know none of these four. Honestly, I think I'm honestly picking F. I like F. You could be a rich person in China or South Korean or Japanese. I would say like the worst place that you might pop up in is maybe Brunei. I've heard you don't really... Oh, East Timor is a very poor country. Papua New Guinea as well. But there's a lot of upside. Like Singapore is in here. Malaysia doesn't seem bad at all. I like Thailand. The Indonesian people seem like they had a lot of fun when I visited Bali. I really feel like F has the most. I mean, I don't see anything that bad out of F, to be quite honest, except for North Korea, the small sliver here. Norway and Afghanistan in the same region. Gotta make a wild bet. Oh, true. Can I just immigrate to Sweden? Gotta be J. Your parents are undoubtedly research scientists or penguins. There's only 1,000 people that live in Antarctica, and only partially during certain times of the year. You have a way higher chance of becoming a penguin. We're also not considering that it doesn't necessarily say that you're going to be born on land. You're just going to be a small newborn baby, and they're going to pop you into any of these regions, whether that be underwater or not. Can't babies swim? I don't know if they can swim thousands of miles, Drew, if we're in the middle of the ocean. Over 1,000 people clearly agreed with my choice here, easy F, but this is a concern. Congratulations, you're a New Guinean mountain tribesman. Yeah, we just got ratioed right here. Man, I knew the US was already out here gerrymandering states, but gerrymandering the world? This is getting ridiculous. But if you want a chance to be born in former British colonies, check out Egypt, Botswana, and Somalia. Yes, I am now remembering that these are all former partially British colonies. Somalia was formerly a part of the Italian Empire, part of Somalia. But yeah, you can head over to makeshift.com before these African balls are gone forever. There's a small chance that we go back to Africa anytime soon, I will say. So, you know, I don't know how long it'll take. This is the first time I've ever brought a full-on African campaign to us. I've had Morocco before. I think that was the only other African country. So if you stand Africa, this is your last chance to get over to makeshift.com and get these country balls today. Pew pew, gun ownership laws in the USA. When I laced our schools! Alright, so you're gonna notice on this map that the US is one of the only countries that does not require a permit for a long gun. Of course, it all depends on the state itself. My home state of California does make it a lot harder to get, well, I wouldn't say a lot harder, to be quite honest, because actually a lot of people that I know have guns here in California, but it's not quite as easy as these other blue states. It's important to know we're not talking handguns here. Funny enough, the only other dark blue nation on this map is Yemen. Wow, didn't know the US and Yemen had so much in common. In light blue, South Sudan, Finland, Switzerland, and Austria require, well, a license, but a partially license. I've always heard a lot of the Swiss population actually do own firearms themselves. However, they do not see a lot of the same problems that we experience here in the U.S. Our U.S. state of Washington falls into that same category as Switzerland. The green countries owning a long gun is allowed, but you do need a permit. No good reason is required, though. So basically, as long as you get the permit, you don't even need a reason, which is why I said earlier, it sounds pretty easy to get one in California. I'm not gonna lie. It's like extra hula hoops you have to jump through, but it's really not that much harder. It's not as easy as the dark blue states, but it's still fairly easy. So with that in mind, that's making me think, okay, for Argentina, Uruguay, Paraguay, Chile, I mean, damn, is it much harder for them to get one down here too? They actually don't have very high rates of firearms per civilian, but I think an aspect that we're forgetting is like the requirement. Does their civilian population feel like they need that? Like, for instance, in Canada, I could see a lot of people arguing like, yo, we need one because of just the straight up bears up there. The grizzlies, and then more importantly, the white bears. The only entirely green places in Europe is actually just Italy and Czechia. Then in Iraq, in Jordan, in Pakistan, and that's the final green spots. Oh, and then New Zealand. What is that, to shoot a hobbit? Yellow is similar, but you do need a good reason. So maybe that's because, what could be a good reason on a firearm? I mean, I guess if you just live in a dangerous area like we talked about with bears. So if you live in like part of Norway too close to the Arctic Circle, most of Europe remains in yellow. Actually, most of Africa is in yellow, kind of. It's harder on the books to get one in Mexico, but I bet you just go behind the, you go in the black market. Same with Brazil and Peru and probably Colombia. It's probably just more of an underground thing. Maybe not officially, yeah, you know what I'm saying. Australia used to have guns, and then they took those away, and then made it harder to get one. Then all the red countries, it is prohibited. Prohibited with a couple of exceptions. So you're looking at China, you're looking at South Korea, you're looking at Japan. Then there's the dark red countries where it's just straight up prohibited, so there's no exceptions. That's North Korea, that's Cambodia, that's Somalia, man, even Mali, and then it depends. I'm guessing these stripes, it's either broken, maybe it's broken down like on a state or province level. I find it kind of fascinating, all the countries that are in a dark red, also tend to be pretty, they're pretty authoritarian. Iran, North Korea, China, Venezuela. I mean, interesting. I have to say it. Is anyone else noticing that shit? Don't forget about Somalia. Hello, I'd like to have a gun license, please. Any particular reason? No good reason. No problem. This is a very effective law in Somalia. That's what I was thinking about for countries like Mexico and Brazil. I mean, this map makes it seem like it's difficult to get in those two places. They've categorized Brazil and Mexico in the same category as the vast majority of countries in Europe. Yet we all have heard stories about what goes down in Mexico and Brazil. In fact, they're the two highest crime rates. I think they're the two top homicide countries. Fascinating. Oh my god, I think I'm gonna be sick. These were all the places that were once France. The number of years these territories were literally France. It should be unsurprising that the modern-day French borders is going to be the darkest on the map. However, you can really see the beginnings of France, which is known as West Francia. That was the core of France, where, you know, when it was really first starting after Charlemagne's empire. That's like the true heart of France. That's been French for over 1,000 years, over 1,100 years. And you can kind of see where they began to grow. So they actually didn't start heading westward until more recently. We've had this stuff for a while, though. Very smart of the French people over, you know, centuries ago to expand out this way first. They didn't have Brittany. Brittany does have a complicated history, Celtic even, but they had the Paris region, and then they had the south of France for quite some time. Now, when you expand out of modern-day France's borders, you got to go back to mostly the Napoleonic days. That's where we're seeing a lot of this stuff. Because as you can see, a lot of these territories have the very same shade, which means that it was held for, well, less than 100 years, basically. This is the French as of 1812, when Napoleon was at his height. Actually, in fact, he's invading Russia and he's about to lose everything. But as you can see, not all of Napoleonic France was considered France. A lot of this was just like vassalized territory in a way, or puppets even. Only certain areas were actually considered like mainland France. So this coastline in Croatia. How the hell did they get away with that? So they grabbed Luxembourg, Belgium, the Netherlands. This wasn't even a part of like the land at the time. That was underwater, I believe. Corsica, all things considered, hasn't really been French for all that long, but yes, they still hold Corsica to this day. And yeah, they've always kind of wanted Catalonia, right? Look at this small little pocket right here. They must have taken over a random Holy Roman Empire town. I really wish this map showed like the full world view. Like, I want to see French Louisiana, I want to see French Africa, French Southeast China, Indochina. All those regions were France too, right? French Guyana, that's like the weirdest one. You gotta include them. Looks like the Francophone Belgians have barely lived in France at all, less so than some Dutch speakers even. Yeah, yeah, I really wish it was not broken down into like literal centuries. I feel like we could have done this better. We Croats have been under so many countries, I sometimes don't understand how we even survived. Every friend group got that one weird homie that wants to be a part of the group so bad, but it doesn't make any sense. ASEAN is a group of Southeast Asian nations, and Serbia wants to be a part of that. Bro, what, Serbia? ASEAN literally stands for the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Serbia, are you gonna like somehow colonize Southeast Asia now, or what? It's funny because there's lots of discussion to expand ASEAN. Maybe getting Papua New Guinea, that's probably the most likely choice. Maybe even getting in Bangladesh. But bro, Serbia, you're not even in Asia. This would literally be like if North Korea wanted to join the European Union. What's funny though is Serbia has signed a cooperation treaty, and they were unanimously accepted into something like Ascension or something? Ascension. I signed the Ascension instrument today. See, I guess this is what happens when a country is bullied so deeply by their own neighbors. They don't even know what continent they're from anymore. No, but Serbia is definitely kind of the weird kid on the block when it comes to the EU, so I guess it's not that surprising that they wanted to find a new friend group. Hearts of Iron 4-ass faction. Ah, there you go. Just add another S. That fixes the whole thing. It is kind of funny because a lot of people do refer to Southeast Asia as, well, basically Asian Balkans. It basically is. There's a lot of infighting there. Some of the reasons could be their old ties to the non-aligned movement. Obviously, Serbia existed within Yugoslavia back during the Cold War days, and Yugoslavia was like the biggest beginner of the whole non-aligned movement. They didn't want to be a part of technically the communist and capitalist fight, even though Yugoslavia was formerly communist. It's just kind of interesting because it's not like Serbia owns a port, right? They're kind of landlocked in the Balkans. So how are they even supposed to get to ASEAN in the first place? Everyone and their mama out here is so afraid of BRICS Plus. BRICS being an acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Why didn't they put South Africa right here? And then they even expanded that group to also include Ethiopia and Egypt, also Iran and Indonesia. It's crazy. On a map level, they look absolutely massive, and their goal is basically just to form economic ties amongst each other and to kind of bring down the US dollar. But when you actually compare their global GDP, it's kind of rough out here. Just the G7 countries, which includes the USA, Germany, Japan, the UK, France, Canada, and Italy, have 45% versus 27%. All this land for just 27% of the world's GDP. Obviously, all the countries that are not included, they're at about 26%. There's also partners to the BRICS nations, and they contribute about a whole 2%. Partners being like Kazakhstan, Thailand, Uganda, Cuba, Belarus. I gotta say, I'm a little surprised just because I know that the US and China are literally number 1 and 2 with the biggest economies, but it really just goes to show how India, Russia, and I guess everybody else, Brazil, they don't really contribute all that much to, well, economic power right now. The thing about BRICS is it's supposed to be like developing economies. These are future economies that are expected to be very big one day. Crazy. The G7 alone has $51.5 trillion here. Remember that BRICS was started all the way back in 2009, and it's very important to remember this is not a military alliance. This is not at all had to do with any sort of military thing. This is literally just, well, it's called formed as an informal diplomatic club where their governments could meet annually at a forum summits and coordinate multilateral policies. But obviously when you see the sheer amount of nations that either are a part of this or want to be a part of this or who have applied, it's very concerning to the West. The fact that both sides have one country with more than the rest of the gang combined, lol. That's the USA on G7 and China on BRICS. Forgot to even mention that. Yeah, the US and China really carrying both teams right now. It's actually insane. Remember, this is by global GDP, but if you were to define economies differently, like by PPP, this would be a totally different scale. I think by PPP, BRICS would destroy the G7. I guess this only just recently happened, but yes, some people like to use this PPP far more to judge economies. We all know that Facebook is the social media site of boomers, but that's already been a cliche for maybe like 10 plus years now. Some of these other social media sites have got to be aging into that boomer category. So 59% of adults over the age of 65 plus are reporting to use Facebook. But you know what? They also use the website YouTube heavily as well. They use YouTube technically more than Facebook. The thing that keeps YouTube so young though is that 93% of all 18 to 29-year-olds report to using YouTube, which is actually number 1 on the list. YouTube YouTube is beating out Instagram and Facebook and even Snapchat. All of the age groups are using YouTube at drastically high rates. I mean, the 30 to 49-year-olds, the 50 to 64-year-olds. I mean, who doesn't use YouTube at this point? It's kind of crazy. Now that I think about it, even 65% for the boomers out there, that's kind of low. Y'all not using YouTube ever? You don't have internet? Only 19% of the boomers report to using Instagram. That's kind of higher than I thought, to be honest. 22% of boomers use Pinterest? Oh my goodness. I've never used Pinterest before, which is surprising because this is my age bracket. I know, I'm old. I've never used Pinterest, and almost half of my demographic has. This is the problem with the young people in this world, Gen Z and millennials. They're not using LinkedIn. Bro, put the fries in the bag. 50 to 64-year-olds are saying their fourth most popular social media website is LinkedIn. Y'all gotta stop worrying about damn Snapchat out here. I'm starting to sound like a boomer myself. 16% of all users on YouTube are between the ages of 18 and 24. That's a lie. That's such a lie. There's a lot of people that are under 18 that, use. You can never trust YouTube age demographics, but the biggest age by category is 25 to 34-year-olds. Almost a quarter of all of YouTube is between the age of 25 and 34. Reported. I don't think so. I think the majority is still under 24. Like, there's 3-year-olds using YouTube. Like, let's be real. Funny enough, for Facebook, it's about the same, although almost a third of all Facebook users are 25 to 34. I do not use Facebook. I'm good. So weird going back to Facebook. Feels like hell. Instagram is pretty split, with 18 to 24-year-olds just barely beating out 25 to 34-year-olds by 1%. As we know, I guess the old people don't really use Instagram much. Pinterest is for the young people. Maybe that's why I never used Pinterest before. Now, TikTok finally includes the age bracket between 13 and 17. Honestly, we needed that for all of these, but TikTok is most heavily used by 18 to 24-year-olds. There we go. Okay, that kind of restores some of my faith in humanity. LinkedIn is used a lot by 25 to 34 years. I was gonna say, bro, who are the 50-year-olds using Snapchat? FBI, check on these people. The real reason why I wanted to review this is it's because formerly Twitter, or now officially X, that's gonna become the new boomer site. Young people do not use Twitter. Well, I guess 18 to 24-year-olds, but I know a lot of old people. I mean, look, 20% are 35 to 49. Remember, these people are only going to age up. They're going to age up in these categories. You know what? This kind of explains a lot about Reddit. I'm not really that surprised. Half of the website is under the age of 29. Oh god. I feel like X is going to be more of a boomer website than LinkedIn at some point one day. What other social media sites are we going to get out there? I feel like we've had these for a long time. There's no one going to break it up somehow. There's not going to be a newcomer. I guess TikTok is the newest newcomer. This is kind of a dumb post as me, someone living in Los Angeles, to review. This is the regions in the US that have the highest number of perfect days. The criteria being the absolute highs in terms of temperature being anywhere between 68 and 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Lows only going down as low as 50 but to 65. Dew point, light winds, and also cloud cover also somewhat being a factor here, but not much. So this is a big reason why your real estate prices are going to cost so much out here in California. Yo, we literally take this for granted. That's why I was saying I really shouldn't review this. Like, I do forget when I'm traveling around. It's like, oh yeah, it sucks to go outside a lot of times of the year when you're in anywhere else. Like, I'll be honest, it's kind of interesting when it sucks to go outside in LA. It's like, oh wow, something new. Some first world problems right there. What's surprising about this graph though is technically by these standards, it's saying that inland California, the vast majority of Nevada, a lot of Arizona, Utah, these have the least amount of perfect days. Only a maximum of 10 days out of the year they're going to see perfect days in these states, which makes sense. It's very hot. It's very arid in these climates. Whereas in red, coastal California, we're having over 100 days easily being considered perfect days. According to this, I mean, Texas, the vast majority of Texas only has 20 to 30 perfect days. Is that right? Seems kind of low, no? It's interesting to see so many perfect days come out of the Northeast. You would think that just like winter time would make it so much colder, but I guess if you only need to get, rack up 30 perfect days, like there's certain parts of fall and spring where, New York's pretty nice. Minnesota even having a couple of perfect days. I've always heard that about the northern states. If you don't come during one singular month out of the year, they're going to tell you just to come back during this one single month and it'll be way better. Like, bro, no, I'm here right now. I got to make the best of it. Certain parts of Florida have higher rates. So like Tampa is getting a kind of a higher rate, but still it seems kind of low. Only about 2 to 3 months is perfect in Florida. Interesting that if you live along the Appalachian Mountains, you're going to have more perfect days. Weirdly, how does that work exactly? We need people. We need comments. I need to figure out if this is true. Yeah. See, this is a good point. There's a big difference between perfect days and I don't want to go outside days, because that's more important. If it's slightly off, if it's slightly not a perfect day, I think it's gonna be fine. If it's 83 degrees, who cares? Oh man, Hawaii would have been good. You know, Hawaii gets pretty hot, but they probably do have a lot of perfect days. I was just learning about how many people travel to Hawaii for Christmas. I had no idea people travel to Hawaii for Christmas. As a Floridian, Central Florida has a higher number of perfect weather days than the coast. Absolutely not, and it's not even close. Central Florida is hell on earth. That's what I thought. I thought that was kind of weird. And we wonder why housing in California is so expensive. Yeah, this explains it perfectly. I don't know how many perfect days Egypt, Botswana, and Somalia have, but they might have perfect days in your possession. Maybe. I don't know. Check out makeshift.com if you want these. See ya. Big thanks to my patrons this month. If you want your name here, check that Patreon link in the description down below. Never change Drew unless you want to. We need a Drew bobblehead figurine. Petition for Drew
Alexander
to make
the Terrible,
ASMR
Connor
Tingles
Pavlik,
version 2.
Frederick Tiblin,
King Bear Hayes,
Lord Track,
Luxembourg Lover,
Miglu the Goat,
Nolan, Nord Tyrol,
Tambrin,
and William.